You wouldn't build a house without a foundation, so don't build your business without one. This is Mindset Monday, where we lay out the tools, frameworks, and mindset you need to scale your contracting or trading business today. We decided to go old school. We're just getting right into it. There's no 1 minute countdown. We're just rolling with it. So you guys know the deal. If you're here live, go ahead and drop your name and your business name, and we'll give you the good old-fashioned shout out. Welcome to Mindset Monday. I'm your host, Gerritt Bake, here in conjunction with our good friends over at Contractor Plus. Man, what a week, right? You're like, oh, it's Thanksgiving. I'm going to cook a turkey or burn my house down. Or, I mean, I'm not here to judge if you're a good cook or not, but hopefully you don't burn your house down. But hopefully you'll have a good time this week for sure. We got Daniel checking in finally. Wait, are you in the mobile office or are you in the office office? You got to be in the office because normally you're a little more delayed. Daniel's first one. Welcome to the show. Listen, if you're here, go ahead and drop us a business name, where you're from, and your own name. We'll give you a nice little shout out. But we had a really interesting week last week. In the week, we get Mauro Morales. Good morning to you as well, my friend. Matt Beckel with Beckel Electric. Welcome. We had a really interesting week last week. And I'm laughing now, but I wasn't laughing last week, right? So on Thursday, we're working 2 projects right now. We're doing 2 TIs. Actually, one's a core and shell and the other one's a TI. But the TI project, the drywall guys that we'd hired to do the job, we'd use them on smaller jobs, and they, mentioned that they were more than capable of doing this job. And it's a 3-story project. Well, we get to the job site on Thursday morning and realize that they put on this second layer of drywall, which they were supposed to do, but they didn't do it with our permission, and they did it the wrong way, right? So if you go horizontally with the first layer, you have to go vertically with the other, right? They have to be going different directions. Well, they made it the same direction, which was a problem. It was a problem because we had inspection on Friday morning. So we find this out about 8 o'clock in the morning on Thursday, and I'm in the middle of teaching a class for the next 3.5 hours. Well, afterwards, my phone is blowing up. I've got the I got my wife, right? Everybody like, what are we doing? And I was like, all right, well, we're doing the old school. Let's roll up the sleeves. So we fired that guy. We already had our backup ready to go. So our backup ends up working to get guys to the job site. Well, we now have to order 50 new sheets of 4x12 half-inch drywall, 50 sheets. I got a pickup truck, half-ton pickup truck. That sure as hell ain't going to fit in back of that. Don't have a trailer. So what do? We roll to the old Home Depot. We rent a Penske truck. You got it, a Penske truck. And I drive over to the supply house. $1,300 later, they use their forklifts, which I thought was a pretty cool thing. They load up the 50 sheets in the back of the Penske, and I drive it up the mountain to Park City. Spend the next couple hours unloading, getting everything prepped for these guys, and I left the Penske truck there. Why? Because it was already 7 o'clock at night, and they were going to remove the rest of the drywall and throw it in the back of the Penske so that I could dispose of it. Why did we have to do that? Well, because the dumpster was full. So we drive back up the next morning. We get there at 6:30 in the morning. We check their work. They did an amazing job. Clean up a little bit. And then I drive the Penske down the hill, have to take it to the dump, and unfortunately unload it all by myself. Now, I don't tell you that because I want a sob story out of you. I tell you that because that's part of being a business owner, right? Sometimes it works the way you want it to, and sometimes it doesn't. But we signed up for this, right? We signed up for the fact that it was going to be difficult. We signed up for the fact that sometimes it was going to work out real nice and sometimes it wasn't, right? We signed up for that. And sometimes you just have to make it work, right? And I'm the biggest proponent. You guys should know me by now. I'm the biggest proponent of systems, processes, and people, right? Putting the right people in the right place under the right instructions to make sure that the job gets done the way it's supposed to. It doesn't always happen. And I can tell you that I get a lot of people who ask me, what do I do now? I hired the guy. I trained him. I showed him exactly what he was supposed to do, and then it didn't work out. Or I hired the sub and they did it wrong, or whatever the thing is, right? What do you do when things go wrong? Well, before we do that, we got Nieves Brothers Constructions. Good morning, my friend. We've got Adrian from New Mexico. My parents live in Rio Rancho, so I'm very familiar with the great state of New Mexico. Now, what do we do, right? It's interesting how I talk about accountability, but a lot of people don't really understand what accountability is, or even more important, how far should they go with it, right? Before we get started, you have to understand what accountability is. Accountability is doing the thing that you said you were going to do. That's accountability, right? Now, whether that's with a sub, whether that's with an employee, or whether that's you, accountability is doing the thing you said you're going to do. Some people have a lot of internal accountability, right? I would like to believe that I have a lot of internal accountability. If I tell you I'm going to do something, I'm going to do it, right? But a lot of people don't. And so they struggle with this, like, well, what does it actually mean for me and my business? Like, how far can I take this thing? So I want to really break that down today. And I'm going to use my own situation as an example. Okay. And I actually have another story that I'm going to back up here in a second. Okay. So the first thing that you have to look at is accountability itself, right? Accountability isn't about being a jerk. It's not about being an asshole. We've all had the asshole boss or the asshole GC or the asshole owner, whatever. It's not about being an asshole. It's about clarity. It's about follow through. It's about respect. When you do it right, it doesn't create friction. It builds trust. Okay. And that's the thing that we're after. We want trust, right? When it comes to accountability, then how do we set this thing up? How do you do it? Number one, the most important thing, this is what you got to understand. Okay. If it's vague, meaning it's not clear, you're going to get inconsistent results, right? If I tell my guys, hey, you need to be on time every day, what does that mean? I don't know. To me, it means before 7:00. But for the guys, it might be before 9:00, right? So you have to be specific, right? Being on time is not the same as, hey, everybody's on the job, tools are out, and we're ready to work by 7 a.m. Difference, right? Let's talk about quality because that's a big issue, okay? Maintain quality is one thing. Hey, we have high standards. Yeah, great. What does that mean? Well, it means nothing because it's not clear. If you say 0 callbacks, job passes inspection the first time, materials are checked by the foreman, like that's clarity. Let me bring you to my second story. We're doing a corn shell here in another city in town, right? Well, guess what? We are a week behind when we said we were going to be done. In fact, we had an inspection on Monday and we failed. This is what the inspector did. He got out of his truck, 2 steps, took a picture, got back in and left. Why did he do that? Well, it's framing, and he could see that obviously we hadn't finished skinning the outside of the building. It was obvious, right? So he didn't even step foot on the job site, took a picture and left. What's the problem with that? Well, the problem that we discovered is that our framer that we had assumed that he knew what he was doing, which he did, generally speaking, but nobody was guiding the timeline and no one was creating a daily task list for him. And he'd never been exposed to this, right? Our bad was assuming, which we talk about it, but again, I'll fall on the sword. We assumed that he knew what he was doing and he knew how to do it. And the truth is he didn't. So what do we need to do? We needed to pivot. And so we pivoted. And we said, you have to be done by literally today, Monday, right? You have to be done. So we set out a daily task list. What needs to be done? We walk the job every single day, not with the foreman, but with the supervisor, okay? We walk the job. We walk the job with the sub. We said, okay, here's all the things that need to be done today. Are you clear? Yes. Do you have your manpower? Yes. Do you have the material? No. What material do you need? I need these anchor bolts. Great. We're going to go get the anchor bolts and make sure you have them, right? And we did this, and guess what happened? We got done. Now, we were there on Saturday. I went 3 times to the job site. Now, I didn't go to do the work. That's what I'm paying him for. But I went to make sure that the things that needed to get done got done. Okay. We created clarity, and that's why we got done. So number one, and the most important thing that your team or your subs or both need is clarity. Don't tell them to be on time. Tell them they need to be there at 7:00, tools out, ready to go by 7 a.m. Okay. Big difference. Second thing, the fortune is in the follow-up. Now, that term is a marketing term that's basically telling you, hey, just sending a proposal or sending a bid or talking to somebody once isn't going to get you everything that you want. It's going to take a little bit more follow-up. Like there's people that I follow up for months before we actually end up at the point where they become a client. And I'm willing to do that, right? So be willing to do that. The fortune is in the follow-up. Now, what does that have to do with accountability on a job site? Your job is to bridge the gap between expectation and performance. In other words, you have an expectation on how things need to be done, when things need to be done, but the performance that you're getting from your employees or your subs is not the same. Well, whose fault is that? You ain't going to like this one. That's yours, right? It's your fault. You are the business owner, okay? So listen, it's not just about setting the rules. It's about following up. If you don't follow up, the rules become suggestions. And everybody hates suggestions, right? The rules need to be the rules. They are, as we like to say, the standard, okay? So check this out, okay? Here's a stat according to the Associated Building Contractors, okay? Teams that receive regular feedback are significantly more engaged. Teams that receive regular feedback are significantly more engaged, right? And we want engaged employees. We want engaged subs. Got a couple folks that showed up. Matt, welcome to the show. Good afternoon to you as well. Admin, I don't know who you are. You say good morning. You must be a West Coaster or here with us in Mountain Standard Time. So what do we need to do when it comes to accountability? Okay. The exact same thing I just told you that we did with our framer on this job site. Okay. Too often we look at a job as a complete job. Now listen, for some of you, the job is a 2-hour, hey, I'm replacing the water heater. Totally get it. Or it might be a one day where, you're pouring a sidewalk. But for a lot of you, you're on a job for multiple days. So add a very simple daily check-in. Okay. Where are we at? What do we need to get done today? How are we going to get it done? What do you need from me? And you heard me give that example with our framer. Okay. You can look at it like babysitting. Sure. I don't really care how you look at it, but I'm going to tell you, if you want results, your people need clarity. Okay. Whether that clarity comes from you, comes from your project manager, doesn't matter. It needs to come from the business to the employee and or the subs. Okay. What are we getting done today? How are we getting it done? I don't care how long they've worked with you. I don't care how skilled they are. Your job is to create the clarity. Okay. Your culture will become what you tolerate. So if you have an issue with people showing up late, that's your culture. If you have a problem with people getting the jobs done on time, that's your culture. If you have a problem with your people getting your jobs done right the first time, that's your culture, right? What you allow or what you tolerate becomes your culture. So don't let that happen. Next thing, okay? Weekly. Now, if these are for your longer jobs, and I know this only applies to some of you, but I want to get it out. Weekly, you need to have a check-in with the foreman, the supervisor, whoever it is that's running this job, okay? You need to have a check-in with them and say, hey, here's what we're doing this week. Here's how we're planning on getting it done. We still on schedule? Do you need anything from me, right? Communication on the other side of things. Why? Because your team needs to know that everyone on the job site is aligned. I've had subs on jobs that are told one thing by me and then another thing by a supervisor. And it creates chaos and it creates confusion. In fact, I don't even know where this came from, but these drywall guys that we fired, well, they were told, I don't know where that bubble came from. They were told, according to them, by some short, fat guy that they could go ahead and continue and do this work. And we're like, who's the short, fat guy? If he's not the super and he's not us, I don't know where you got your directions from, right? So we want to eliminate or clear up that confusion. So we make sure everybody's on the same page. What do we do? Once a week with the super and or the project manager, and then us and whatever subs on the job. Together, we talk. What's getting done this week? How's it getting it done? Do you need anything from me? Right? We had an issue with the framers. One of the reasons they're a little delayed is because they were pouring the concrete, right? The curbing, everything around the side of the building, and they couldn't bring their lift up to the building because they were pouring concrete. So they lost a day there, right? Now, we were delayed, so we can't really take a lot of that into account, but it is what happened, and we made sure that we communicated with it. Hey, It's going to take one extra day just because you guys are pouring and we're not going to be able to be there, right? So that clarity and that communication. The third thing, the good old how to call someone out without calling them out, right? How to call someone out without calling them out. Now, I've seen people get called out and it turns into a scolding, which sometimes is justified. Listen, I'm a parent. I'm a business owner. I get it. Sometimes I do it and I shouldn't do it that way, right? Which means we have to learn how to call someone out without burning the bridge, okay? Now, what I've learned, the easiest way to do this is you make sure that you make it the conversation about the work and not the worker. Make it about the work and not the worker. What do I mean by that? Well, we showed up on Saturday and they were finishing skinning up the front of the building. And there were 2 pieces of OSB that were put on crooked. And how do I know they were put on crooked? Because I could see gaps, right? And the gaps weren't equal gaps. They were angling one way. And so I told the framer, I was like, hey, come here with me. Like, if you were the inspector and you looked at this, what would you say about that? And he's like, oh, I wouldn't like that. I'm like, you're right. He wouldn't like that. So what do you think we need to do? Oh, I need to replace those 2 sheets. I'm like, yep, 100%, right? Simple, just like that. I could call him an idiot. I could say, hey, your work quality sucks, or whoever skinned this, you need to fire them. But where's that going to get us? It's not going to get us anywhere we need to be, right? So I had to get him to start to see things from my perspective. How do I do that? I make it about the work and not about the worker, right? So let's say it's outside of just the work, right? Let's say it's someone who showed up late, okay? I know it's hard as a business owner not to be emotionally invested in people and projects. I get it. But you have to remove the emotion when you're having a conversation with somebody. So let's say somebody's late, right? State the fact and no feelings. I noticed you arrived 20 minutes late this morning. That's a fact, right? Can't argue with that. The second thing is you have to explain the impact. So for example, hey man, when you're late, the crew has to wait, we lose productivity, and we're looking bad to that GC. Also a fact, right? But that's how it directly impacts the job or the work. Number 3, solution, right? You heard me already share this, but what needs to change so this doesn't happen again? Or what do we need to do to fix this, right? Now, talking about it is one thing, doing it is another. And you have to get to this point where doing it is more important than talking about it, right? I like to ask people, hey, what would you do if you were in my position? What would you do, right? And they're going to tell you. And that's that thing that you hold them accountable to. But we also are very clear about things, right? So our frame, when he got done on time, not only do we talk about it, not only do we say, okay, it needs to be done by this date, but we also send him an email, a formal email with the sections of our contract that he signed, that he agreed to, that said, hey, if it wasn't done on time, this is what the repercussions would be. And we told him, if you're not done by Monday, we're going to start charging you $1,000 a day. You were like, wait a minute, why would you charge him $1,000 a day? Because I want him to see the seriousness of the impact that he's having on the job. I don't want to take $1,000 from him, but I also want to get more jobs with this GC. And the only way that that happens is if we do the quality work the first time and on time. Okay. So you have to be willing to hold somebody accountable, not to the thing that you want them to do, but the thing that they committed to doing. Last thing, being a boss versus being an owner. Okay. I've worked with almost 1,000 contractors over the years. In fact, we're probably over 1,000 now. I should probably break out that number. And those contractors have tens of thousands of employees, right? And I can tell you from experience that the good contractors attract the good employees, and the good employees want to be held accountable. If you have a culture that doesn't have accountability, that lacks accountability, that people yell and scream at you, that people say that's a bunch of BS, that people don't want it, whatever the thing is, that's not their fault. That's yours. That's not their problem. That's yours. You created a culture where these things were tolerated. And so my invitation to you is to say, what do I have to do so that I can build a culture that creates the outcome that I'm after, right? I don't think I mentioned this last week. Maybe I did, but I fired 2 people. I fired my office manager and I fired a content specialist because they weren't upholding our standards. But what does that do for everybody else in your organization? Honestly, they weren't scared. They were excited. They were excited because they know what the standard is. They're holding the standard. And now they see that I'm holding the standard too. And so they're excited. They're excited about the new people that are going to come in and the opportunities that are going to be presented and the outcomes that we're going to reach because of that standard of accountability. And by the way, last note, accountability goes both ways. I have a Monday morning meeting with my entire team, and then I have Monday meetings with each of my team members. And inside of that, I welcome feedback. And guess what the biggest piece of feedback I'm getting right now is, hey, we need a standard around that. We need a process around that. Literally had my assistant who's been with me for 5 years. She's like, hey, we need a process around this. We need a process around this. We need a process around that. Yep, you're right. We do. So your people can hold you accountable as well if you have the right culture, if you have the right people. So listen, it's Thanksgiving week. I know you're going to eat too much on Thursday. I know you're probably going to try and make it up on Friday or watch football. Who knows? Maybe you're going to go watch Ohio State and Michigan. We'll see. But the point is, this is not an overnight thing, right? This is not a one-time thing. This is about you creating a culture that attracts the right people. This is about you raising the standard, as I've got right here on my wristband. Let me turn this thing around. You guys can see, whoops, raise, put it in the middle of the screen. Raise the standard, okay? Why do I have that on my wrist? Because it's my daily reminder that my job as the owner of my businesses is to not just create the standard, but raise the standard. So I can keep attracting the right people, so we can keep putting out a great quality product, so we can continue to grow, which is what we want to do as a business. So that's my challenge for you guys this week. If you don't have a standard, set it. If you have a standard, hold up to it. If you don't, you're going to end up exactly where it is that you want to go. We've got a couple comments here. Whoops. Let me start here. Friction is often the pathway to solving problems. It ain't fun, but someone's got to do it. Yes, sir. You are 100% correct. Matt says, thank you for your time. Do you have a channel? I was invited via text message. You're hitting all topics. Very helpful. We do have a channel. I'll talk more about that here in a little bit. And Adrian says, I like hiring people with no experience sometimes. It's good to train people on how you want and need things done. That's great, Adrian. I love that. So I'm going to address that here for a second. You can train a monkey to turn a wrench, swing a hammer, whatever. Okay. So do you want skills? Yes. But what you want is the things that you can't train. You can't train hard work. You can't train focus. You can't train dedication. You can't train somebody to be nice or kind, right? So find the people that have the qualities that you want first off. Okay. And then train them to do the things that you want them to do. So absolutely love that. Now we do have a channel. The channel on YouTube is just BuildPro. So look up BuildPro and you can see that. If you guys are interested in joining our school community, so we have a private community where you can come in and learn more about how to be a contractor the right way. I'll drop the link here so you guys can have access to that. We'd love to have you. But if you guys are struggling with the back end and organization of your business, what you need to do is, well, I'll put it on there. There you go. That's about 100 times. What you need to do is you need to start using a program like Contractor Plus. So all of you guys on here should be using Contractor Plus, especially with version 2, what it allows you to do for your business. So hold your standards high so you can hold your people high to that standard as well. All right. That's all we got for you. Have a great week. Enjoy your Thanksgiving. Happy Thanksgiving to all of you. And we'll see you guys on the next one.